Welcome to part 4 of How It Works. Chapter... Hold on, Chapter 4. So we are part 4. So we're doing the rest of this tonight. So, I'm tired. I want to go to bed, but I gotta get this done. So, here we go. Step 7. We humbly ask them to remove our shortcomings. Character defects or shortcomings are those things that cause pain and misery all of our lives. If they contributed to our health and happiness, we should not have come to just a state of desperation. We had to become ready to have God, as we understood Him, remove these defects. Having decided that we want God to relieve us of the useless or destructive aspects our personalities, we have arrived at the 7th step. We couldn't handle the ordeal of life all by ourselves. It wasn't until we made a real mess of our lives that we realized we couldn't do it alone. By admitting this, we achieved a glimpse of humanity. This is the main ingredient of step 7. Humanity is the result of being honest with ourselves. We have practiced being honest since step 1. We accepted our addiction and powerlessness. We found a strength beyond ourselves and learned to rely on it. We examined our lives and discovered who we really are. To be truly humble, to accept and honestly try to be ourselves. None of us is perfectly good or perfectly bad. We are people who assist assets and liabilities. Most importantly, we are human. Humanity isn't much a part of staying clean, as food and water are to staying alive. As our addiction process, we devoted our energy towards satisfactoring or our material desires. All other needs were beyond our reach. We always wanted gratification of our basic desires. The 7th step is an action step, and it is time to ask God for help and relief. We have to understand that our way of thinking is not the only way. Other people can give us direction. When someone points out a shortcoming, our first reaction may be defensive. We must realize that we are not perfect We will always be room for growth. If we truly want to be free, we will take a good look at input from fellow addicts. If the shortcomings we discover are real, and we have a chance to get rid of them, we will surely experience a sense of well-being, since we'll want to get their needs for this step. Some will be very quiet, and others will put forth a great emotional effect to show intense willingness. The word humble applies because we approach this power greater than ourselves to ask for freedom, to live without the limitation of our past ways. Many of us are willing to work this step without reservation on pure blind faith, because we are sick of what we have been doing and how we are feeling. Whatever works, we go all the way. This is our road of spiritual growth. We change every day. We gradually and carefully pull ourselves out of the isolation and loneliness of addiction and into the mainstream of life. This growth is not the result of wishing, but of action and prayer. The main objective of step 7 is to get out of ourselves and strive to achieve the will of our higher power. If we are careless and fail to grasp the spiritual meaning of this step, we may have difficulties and store up old troubles. One danger is in being too hard on ourselves. Sharing with other recovering addicts will help us to avoid becoming morbidly serious about ourselves. Accepting the defects of others can help us become humble and pave the way for our own defects to be believed. God often works through those who care enough about recovery to help make us aware of our shortcomings. We have noticed that humanity plays a big part of this program. In our new way of life, we take our inventory and become ready to let God remove our defects of character. We humbly ask Him to remove our shortcomings. This is our road to spiritual growth, and we will run to continue. We are ready for step 8. Step 8. We made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. Step 8 is the test of newfound humanity. Our purpose is to achieve freedom from the guilt that we have carried. We want to look the world in the eye with neither aggressiveness nor fear. We are willing to take a list of all persons that we had harmed to clear away the fear of and guilt that our past holds for us. Our experience tells us that we must become to willing before this step will have any effect. The eighth the eighth step is not easy. It depends a new kind of honesty about our relations with other people. The eighth step starts the process of forgiveness. We forgive other possibly we are forgiven, and finally we forgive ourselves and learn how to live in the world. By the time we reach this step, we have become ready to understand rather than to be understood. We can live and let live easier when we know the areas in which we all amends. It seems hard now, but once we have done it, we will wonder why we did not do it long ago. We need some real honesty before we can make an accurate list. In preparing to make the eighth step list, it is helpful to define harm. One definition of harm is physical and mental damage. Another definition of harm is inflicting pain, suffering, or loss. The damage may be caused by something that is said, done, or left undone. Harm can result from words or actions, either intentional or unintentional. The degree of harm can range from making someone feel mentally uncomfortable to inflicting bodily injury or even death. The eighth step presents us with a problem. Many of us have difficulty admitting that we cause harm for others because we thought we were victims of our addiction. Avoiding this rationalization is critical to the eighth step. We must separate what was done to us from what we did to others. We cut away our justifications and our ideas of being a victim. We often feel that we only harmed ourselves, yet we usually list ourselves last, if at all. The step is doing the leg work to repair the wreckage of our lives. It will not make us better people to judge the faults of another. It will make us feel better to clean up our lives by relieving ourselves of guilt. By writing our list, we can no longer deny that we caused them. We admit that we hurt others directly or indirectly through some action, lie, broken promise, or neglect. We make our list or make it from our fourth step and add additional people as we think of them. We face this honestly and openly examine our thoughts so we can become willing to make amends. In some cases, we may not know the persons that we have wronged, while using anyone that we contacted was at risk. Many members mention their parents, browsers, children, friends, lovers, other addicts, casual acquaintances, co-workers, employers, teachers, landlords, and total strangers. We may also place ourselves on the list because while practicing our addiction, we have slowly been killing ourselves. We may find it beneficial to make a separate list of people to whom we owe financial amends, as with each step we must be through. Most of us fall short of our goals more than more often than we exceed them. At the same time, we cannot put off completion of this step just because we are not so sure that our list is complete. We are never finished. The final difficulty is working the eighth step is separating it from the ninth step. Projections about actually making amends can be a major obstacle both in making the list and becoming willing do this step if there were no ninth step. We do not even think about making the amends, but just concentrate on exactly what the eighth step says. Make a list and become willing. The main thing this step does for us is to help build awareness that little by little we are gaining new attitudes about ourselves and how we deal with other people. Listening carefully to other members share their experience regarding this step can relieve any confusion that we may have about writing our list. Also, our sponsors may share with us how step 8 worked for them. Asking a question during a meeting can give us a benefit of group consents. The eighth step offers a big change from a life dominated by guilt and remorse. The futures are changed because we don't have to avoid those who we have harmed. As a result of this step, we receive a new freedom that can be in isolation as we realize our need to be forgiven. We tend to be more forgiving. At least we know that we are no longer intentionally making life miserable for people. The eighth step is an action step. Like all steps, it offers immediate benefits. We are now free to begin our amends in step 9. Step 9. We may direct amends to such people who, wherever possible, accept when to do so would injure them or others. This step should not be avoided. If we do, we are reserving a place in our program for relapse. Pride, fear, and prosecution often seem an impossible barrier. They stand in the way of progress and growth. The important thing is to take action and to be ready to accept the reactions of those people we have harmed. We make amends to the best of our ability. Timing is an essential part of this step. We should make amends when the opportunity presents itself, except when to do so will cause more harm. Sometimes we cannot actually make the amends. It is neither impossible nor practical in some cases. Amends may be beyond our means. We find the willingness can serve in the place of action where we are unable to contact the person that we have harmed. However, we should never fail to contact anyone because of embarrassment, fear, or procrastination. Thus, we want to be free of our guilt, but we don't wish to do so at the expense of anyone else. We might run the risk of involving a third person at some companion from our using days who does not wish to be exposed. We do not have the right to or the need to endanger another person. If it is often necessary to take guidance from others in these matters, we recommend turning our legal problems over to lawyers and our financial and medical problems to professionals. Part of learning how to live successfully is learning when we need help. In some old relationships, an unresolved conflict may still exist. We do our part to resolve old conflicts by making our amends. We want to step away from further antagonisms and ongoing resentments. In many instances, we can only go to the person and humbly ask for understanding for past wrongs. Sometimes this will be joyous occasion when old friends or relatives prove willing to let go of the bitterness. Contacting someone who is still hurting from the burn of misdeeds can be dangerous. Indirect amends may be necessary where direct ones would be unsafe or endanger other people. We make our amends to the best of our ability. We try to remember that when we make amends, we are doing it for ourselves. Instead of feeling guilty and remorseful, we feel relieved about our past. We accept that it was our actions that cause our negative at the attitude. Step 9 helps us with our guilt and helps others with the anger. Sometimes the only amend we can make is to stay clean. We owe it to ourselves and to our loved ones. We are no longer making a mess in society as a result of our using. Sometimes the only way we can make amends is to contribute to society. Now we are helping ourselves and other addicts to recover. This is the tremendous amend to the whole community. In the process of our recovery, we are restored to insanity and part of society is effectually relating to others. We less often view people as a threat to our security. A real security will replace the physical ache and mental confusion that we have experienced in the past. We approach those who have harmed with humility and patience. Many of our sincere real wishers may be reluctant to accept our recovery as real. We must remember the pain that they have known. In time, many miracles will occur. Many of us who were separated from our families succeeded in establishing relationships with them. And even tidily, it becomes easier for them to accept the change in us. Clean time speaks for itself. Patience is an important part of our recovery. The unconditional love we experience will rejuvenate our will to live in each positive move on our part will be matched by an unexpected opportunity. A lot of courage and faith goes into making an amend, and a lot of spiritual growth results. We are achieving freedom from the wreckage of our past. We will want to keep our house in order by practicing a continuous personal inventory in step 10. Step 10. We continue to take personal inventory when we were wrong, properly admitted it. Step 10 frees us from the wreckage of our present. If we do not stay aware of our defects, they can drive us into a corner that we can't get out of clean. One of the first things we learn in Narcotic Anonymous is that if we use, we lose. By the same token, we won't experience as much pain if we can avoid the things that cause us pain. Continuing to take a personal inventory means that we form a habit of looking at ourselves. our actions, attitudes, and relationships on a regular basis. We are creatures of habit and are vulnerable to our old ways of thinking and reacting at times. It seems easier to continue in the old rut of self-destruction than to attempt a new, seemingly dangerous route. We don't have to be trapped by our old patterns. Today, we have a choice. The 10th step can help us correct our living problems and prevent our recurrence. We examine our actions and during the day. Some of us write about our feelings, explaining how we felt and what part we might have played in any problems which occurred. Did we cause someone harm? Do we need to admit that we were wrong? If we find difficulties, if we make an effort to take care of them, when these things are left undone, they have a way of festering. The step can be a defense against the old insanity. We can ask ourselves if we are being drawn into old patterns of anger, resentment, or fear. Do we feel trapped? Are we setting ourselves up for trouble? Are we too hungry, angry, lonely, or tired? Are we taking ourselves too seriously? Are we judging our insides by the outside appearance of others? Do we suffer from some physical problem? The answers of these questions can help us deal with the difficulties of the moment. We no longer have to live with the feeling that we have a hole in a gut. A lot of our chest concerns and major difficulties come from our experience with living without drugs. Often, when we ask an old timer what to do, we are amazed that simplicity of the answer. The 10th step can be pressure relief valve. We work this step while the day's up and downs are still fresh in our minds. We list what we have done and try not to rationalize our actions. This may be done in writing at the end of the day. The first thing we do is stop. Then we take the time to allow ourselves the private privilege of thinking. We examine our actions, reactions, and motives. We often find that we've been doing better than we've been feeling. This allows us to examine our actions and admit fault. Before things get any worse, we need to avoid recognizing. We promptly admit our faults, not explain them. We work this step constantly. This is a preventive action that is Nevertheless, we will need the corrective part of this step. This step is a good tool of avoiding grief before we bring it on ourselves. We monitor our feelings, emotions, fantasy, and actions by constantly looking at ourselves. We are able to avoid repeating the actions that make us feel bad. We need this step even when we're feeling good and when things are going well. Good feelings are not new to us, and we need to nurture them. In times of trouble, we can try the things that worked during the good times. We have the right to feel good. We have a choice. The good times can also be a trap. The danger is that we may forget that property is to stay clean for us. Recovery is more than pleasure. We need to remember that everyone makes mistakes. We will never be perfect. However, we can accept ourselves by using step 10. By continuing a personal inventory, we are set free in a here and now from ourselves. In the past, we no longer justify our existence. This step allows us to be ourselves. Step 11. We sought through prayer and meditation to improve our cautious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. The first 10 steps have set the stage for us to improve our cautious contact with the God of our understanding. They give us the foundation to achieve our long sought positive goals. Having entered this phase of our spiritual program through practicing the previous 10 steps, most of us welcome the exercise of prayer and meditation. Our spiritual condition is the basis for a successful recovery that offers unlimited growth. Many of us really begin to appreciate our recovery when we get to the 11th step. In the 11th step, our lives take on a deeper meaning. By surrounding control, we gain a far greater power. The nature of our belief it will determine the matter of our prayers and meditations. We need only to make sure that we have a system of belief that works for us. Results counts in recovery, as has been noted elsewhere. Our prayers seem to work as soon as we enter the program of Narcotics Anonymous and we surrender to our disease. The cautious contact described in this step is the direct result of living the steps. We use this step to improve and maintain our spiritual condition. When we first came into the program, we received help from a power greater than ourselves. This was set in motion by our surrender to the program. The purpose of 11th step is to increase our awareness of that power and to improve our ability to use it as a source of strength in our own new lives. The more we improve our conscious contact with our God through meditation, through prayer and meditation, the easier it is to say, "Your will, not mine, be done." We can ask for God's help when we need it, and our lives get better. The experiences that some people talk about regarding meditation and individual religious beliefs don't always apply to us. Ours is a spiritual, not a religious program. By the time we get to the 11th step, character defects that caused problems in the past have been addressed by working the preceding 10 steps. The image of the kind of person that we would like to be is fleeting glimpse of God's will for us. Often our outlook is so limited that we can only see our infinite wants and needs. It is easy to slip back into our old ways to ensure our continued growth and recovery. We have to learn to maintain our lives on a spiritual down basis. God will not force His goodness on us, but we will receive it if we ask. We usually feel something is different in the moment, but don't see the change in our lives till later. When we finally get our own selfish motives out of the way, we begin to find a peace that we never imagined possible. And forced morality lacks the power that comes to us when we choose to live a spiritual life. Most of us pray when we are hurting. We learn that if we pray regularly, we won't be hurting as often or as intentionally. Outside of Narcotics Anonymous, there are any number of different groups practicing meditation. Nearly all these groups are connected with potential religion, pathology, an endorsement of any one of these methods would be a violation of our traditions and a restriction on the individual's right to have a God of his understanding. Meditation allows us to deliver spiritually in our own way. Some of the things that didn't work for us in the past might work today. We take a fresh look at each day with an open mind. We know that if we pray for God's will, we will receive what is best for us, regardless of what we think. This knowledge is based on our belief and experience as recovering addicts. Prayer is communicating with our concerns to a greater power greater than ourselves. Sometimes when we pray, a remarkable thing happens. We find the means, ways, and energies to perform tasks far beyond our capacities. We grasp the limitless strength provided for us through our daily prayer and surrender as long as we keep faith and renew it. For some, prayer is asking for God's help. Meditation is listening for God's answer. We learn to be careful of praying for specific things. We pray that God will show us His will and that He will help us carry that out. In some cases, He makes His will so obvious to us that we have little difficulty seeing it. And others, our egos are so self-centered that we won't accept God's will for us without another struggle and surrender. If we pray for God to remove any distracting influences, and the quality of our prayers usually improves, and we feel that the difference prayer takes practice, and we should remind ourselves that skilled people were not born with those skills, and it took lots of effort in their part to develop them. Through prayer, we seek conscious contact with our God. In meditation, we achieve His contact, and the 11th step helps us to maintain it. We may have been exposed to many religions and meditation disciplines before coming to Narcotics Anonymous. Some of us were devastated and completely confused by these practices. We were sure that if it was God's will for us to use drugs to reach higher consciousness, many of us found ourselves in very strange states as a result of these practices. We never suspected that the damaging effects of our addiction at the root of our difficulty and pursued to the end whatever path offered hope. In quiet moments of meditation, God's will can become evident to us. Quieting the mind through meditation brings an inner peace that brings us into contact with the God within us. A basic premise of meditation is that it is difficult if not impossible to obtain conscious contact unless our mind is still. The usual never-ending succession of thoughts has to cease for progress to be made. So our primary practice is aimed at stilling the mind, and letting the thoughts that arise die a natural death. We leave our thoughts behind as the meditation part of the 11th step becomes a reality for us. Emotional balance is one of the first results of meditation, and our experience bears this out. Some of us came into the program broken and hung around for a while, only to find God a salvation in one kind of religious cult or another. It is easy to float back out the door on a cloud of religious zeal and forget that we are addicts with an incurable disease. It is said that our meditation to be a value, the results must show in our daily lives. This fact is implied in the 11th step. This His will for us and the power to carry it out for those of us who do not pray. Meditation is our only way to working this step. We find ourselves praying because it brings us peace and restores our confidence and courage. It helps us to live a life that is free of fear and distress. When we remove our selfish motives and pray for guidance, we find feelings of peace and serenity. We begin to experience an awareness that empathy with other people that was not possible before working this step. As we seek our personal contact with God, we begin to open up as a flower in the sun. We begin to see that God's love has been present all the time, just waiting for us to accept it. We do the footwork and accept what's being given to us freely on a regular basis. We find relying on God becomes more comfortable for us. When we first came to the program, we usually ask for a lot of things that seem to be important wants and needs. As we grow spiritually and find a power greater than ourselves, we begin to realize that as long as our spiritual needs are met, our living problems are reduced to a point of comfort. When we forget where our real strength lies, we quickly become subject to the same patterns of thinking and actions that got us to the program in the first place. We eventually redefine our beliefs and understanding to the point where we see that our greatest need is for knowledge of God's will for us and the strength to carry that out. We are able to set aside some of our personal performance because we learn that God's will for us consists of the very things we most value. God's will for us becomes our own true will for ourselves. This happens in an intuitive manner that cannot be chronically explained in words. We become willing to let other people who be people be who they are without having to pass judgment on them. The urgency of take care of things isn't there anymore. We couldn't comprehend acceptance in the beginning. Today we can. We know that whatever the day brings, God has given us everything we need for our spiritual well-being. It is all right for us to admit powerlessness because God is powerful enough to help us stay clean and enjoy spiritual progress. God is helping us to get our house in order. We begin to see more clearly what is real through constant contact with our higher power. That the answers that we seek come to us. We gain the ability to do what we once could not. We respect the beliefs of others. We encourage you to seek strength and guidance according to our belief. We are thankful for this step because we begin to get what is best for us. Sometimes we pray for our wants and got trapped. Once we got them, we could pray and get something, then have to pray for its removal because we couldn't handle it. Hopefully, having learned the power of prayer and the responsibility prayer brings with it, we can use the 11th step as a guidance for our daily program. We begin to pray only for God's will for us. This way we are getting only what we are capable of handling. We are able to respond to it and handle it because God helps us prepare for it. Some of us simply use our words to give thanks for God's grace. In an attitude of surrender and humility, we approach this step again and again to receive the gift of knowledge and strength from the God of our understanding. The 10th step clears away the errors of the present, so we may work the 11th step without this step. It is unlikely that we could experience a spiritual awakening, practice spiritual principles in our lives, or carry a sufficient message to attract others to recovery. There is a spiritual principle of giving away what we have been given in Narcotics Anonymous, in order to keep it by helping others to stay clean. We enjoy the benefit of the spiritual wealth that we have found. We must give freely and gratefully that which has been freely and gratefully given to us. Step 12. Having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we try to carry this message to addicts and to practice these principles in all our affairs. We came to Narcotics Anonymous as the result of the wreckage of our past. The last thing we expected as an awakening of the spirit We just wanted to stop hurting. The steps lead to an awakening of a spiritual nature. This awakening is evidenced by changes in our lives. These changes make us better able to live by spiritual principles and to carry our message to recovery in a hope to the addict who still suffers. The message, however, is meaningless unless we live it. As we live it, our lives and actions give more meaning to than our words and literature could ever could. The idea of a spiritual awakening takes many different forms and the different personalities that we find in the fellowship. However, all spiritual awakenings have some things in common. Common elements include an end of loneliness and a sense of direction in our lives. Many of us believe that a spiritual awakening is a meaningless unless accompanied by an increase in peace of mind and a concern for others. In order to maintain peace of mind, we strive to live in the here and now. Those of us who have worked these steps to the best of our ability receive many benefits. We believe that these benefits are a direct result of living this program. When we first begin to enjoy relief from our addiction, we run the risk to assuming control of our own lives again. We forget the agony and pain that we have known. Our disease controlled our lives. When we were using, it is ready for and waiting to take over again. We quickly forget that our past efforts at controlling our lives failed. By this time, most of us realize that the only way that we can keep what was given to us is by sharing this new gift of life with the still suffering addict. This is our best insurance against relapse. To the 12 areas toward is existence of using. We call it carrying the message, and we do it in a number of ways. In the 12th step, we practice the spiritual principles of giving. In the 12th step, we practice spiritual principles, giving the innate message of recovery in order to keep it. Even a member with one day in the NA fellowship can carry the message that this program works. When we share with someone new, we may ask to be used as a spiritual instrument of our higher power. We don't set ourselves up as gods. We often ask for the help of another recovery addict when when sharing with a new person, it is a privilege to respond, fortunate to help others. It is a privilege to respond, to cry for help. We have been in pits of despair, feel fortunate to help others find recovery. We help new people learn the principles of Narcotics Anonymous. We try to make them feel welcome and help them learn what the program has to offer. We share our experience, strength, and hope. Whenever possible, we accompany newcomers to a meeting. The selfless service of this work is the very principle of Step 12. We receive our recovery from the God of our number understanding. We now make ourselves available as His tool to share recovery with those who seek it. Most of us learn that we can only carry our message to someone who is asking for help. Sometimes the only message necessary to make the suffering addict reach out is the power of example. An addict may be suffering but unwilling to ask for help. We can make ourselves available to these people so when they ask someone, we'll be there. Learning to help others is a benefit of the Narcotics Anonymous program, remarkably working the 12 steps guides us from humiliation and despair to acting as instruments of our higher power. We are given the ability to help a fellow addict when no one else can. We see it happening among us every day. This meticulous turnabout of evidence of spiritual awakening. We share from our own personal experience what has been like for us. The temptation to give advice is great, but when we do so, we lose the respect of newcomers. The clouds our message, a simple, honest message of recovery from addiction rings true. We attend meetings and make ourselves visible and available to serve the fellowship. We give freely and gradually of our time, service, and what we have found here. The service we speak of in Narcotics Anonymous is the primary purpose of our groups. Service work is carrying the message to the addict who still suffers. The more eagerly we wade in and work, the richer our spiritual awakening will be. The first way that we can carry the message speaks for itself. People see us on the street and remember us as the various frightened loners. They notice the fear leaving our faces. They see us gradually come alive. Once we find the innate way, boredom and complacency have no place in our new life. By staying clean, we begin to practice spiritual principles such as hope, surrender, acceptance, honesty, open-mindedness, willingness, faith, tolerance, patience, humility, unconditional love, sharing, and caring. As our recovery practices spiritual principles, trust every area of our lives because we simply try to live this program in 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 the here and now. We find joy as we start to learn how to live by the principles of recovery. It is the joy of watching as a person of 2 days clean says to a person with 1 day clean, an addict alone is in bad company. It is the joy of watching a person who was struggling to make it suddenly in the middle of helping another addict to stay clean. Become able to find the words needed to carry the message of recovery. We feel that our lives have become worthwhile, spiritually refreshed. We are glad to be alive. When we were using our lives became an exercise in survival. Now we are doing much more living than surviving, realizing that the bottom line is staying clean. We can enjoy life. We like being clean and enjoy carrying the message to recovery to the addict who still suffers. Going to meetings really works. Practicing spiritual principles in our daily lives leads us to a new image of ourselves. Honesty, humility, and open-mindedness help us to treat our associates fairly. Our decisions become tempered with tolerance. We learn to respect ourselves. The lessons we learn in our recovery are sometimes bitter and painful, but by helping others, we find the reward of self-respect as we are able to share these lessons with other members of Narcotics Anonymous. We cannot deny other addicts their pain, but we can carry the message of hope that was given to us by fellow addicts in recovery. We share the principles of recovery as they have worked in our lives. God helps us as we help each other. Life takes on a new meaning, a new joy, and a new inequality of being and feeling worthwhile. We become spiritually refreshed and are glad to be alive. One aspect of our spiritual awakening comes through the new understanding of our higher power that we deliver by sharing another addict's recovery. Yes, we are. Yes, yes, we are the Virgin of Hope. Vision of Hope. We are examples of the program working the joy that we have in cleaning. Living clean is an attraction to the addict. I don't know about addict. The addict who still suffers. We do recover to live clean, happy lives. Welcome to NA. The steps do not end here. The steps are a new beginning.